getting dark again. The sun not even blinding your eyes anymore. It falls behind the damn trees you've been walking past. Your stomach growls as you try to shut out the hunger pains that plagued you. Even more haunting, however, is the ghostly feeling of your friend's hand in your own, clutching it tightly, trusting you as you badger through the woods. You know that you did what you had to do, and that your friend would have wanted it. They wouldn't want their body to go to waste, getting slowly consumed by the dirt around them as you aimlessly wandered around, lightheaded with hunger. You know that it wasn't you that killed them. It was the unfortunately placed stick on your path that made them trip and split their skull open, helplessly crying out to you as you held their hand. But you could still make out the disgusting taste, and smell the ever-present blood that stained your hands as you kept walking, occasionally glancing behind you because you swear something is looking at you. It had been days since you were truly left on your own, and ever since you'd left your friend's final resting place, you were feeling like you weren't really alone. Sometimes you'd hear a stick crack behind you, only for you to look around and not see anything, not even a bird or a curious deer running away, like the noise was taunting you. At night, when it was too cold to keep walking, you'd bury yourself against a hill in a small pile of leaves. You never stopped feeling eyes on you, scratching at your rapidly paling skin as the paranoid thoughts took over. Is the ghost of your friend haunting you? Are they angry or hurt? Are they gonna get revenge? When you sat down for the night, curling up into yourself, not even managing to cry from dehydration, a looming shadow got cast over you as the sun sent out its last rays, desperately attempting to scramble away from the terrifying creature that was staring at you. Skin just a bit paler than your own, you realized something. No, it wasn't the spirit of your friend haunting you. It was something much worse. It was the Wendigo. Hi, my name's Lee, and I'm a beginner writer, and I try to write more horror-focused things. I decided to make this channel to make video essays and horror content. So, without further ado, here's my first video about my interpretation of the Wendigo story. The Wendigo is probably one of the most misrepresented cryptids in this day and age. They're painted as supernatural creatures that eat human flesh and lurk in the woods, able to turn humans into creatures like themselves with a single bite. They supposedly do this by possessing their victim, eventually turning them to madness as a punishment for committing the sin of cannibalism. While some of these facts are true and based off the actual story of the Wendigo, pop culture has transformed this Native American legend into just another modern-day cryptid, like Momo or Slenderman. To understand the Wendigo, we have to understand where it came from and in what time the idea of it was created. The first known written mention of a creature called the Wendigo was in 1636, found in a report of a French missionary called Paul Lejeune, living amongst the Algonquian people, which is now known as Quebec. Also, I apologize if I don't pronounce the tribe's name correctly. While it is the first written documentation of the cryptid, the Frenchmen most likely heard it from the Algonquian folk, so it isn't easy to say when the legend of the Wendigo was actually created. The Algonquin were a North American Indian tribe, mostly living in what is now eastern Canada. They were a close-knit speaking band that resided in the forest near Ottawa River in Quebec, discovered by the French. The Wendigo was thought of as a terrifying flesh-eating creature, described as tall and thin with a pale skin resembling a skeleton. Only later was the animal skull part of its appearance added. Although descriptions of it varied, one thing that always remained the same was that it was a cannibalistic predator. It is thought that one of the Algonquin people encountered a severely starved and ill man during the winter months, explaining the thinness and pale skin, forced to eat his comrades to survive. The tribe member interpreted this horror as something supernatural, most likely unable to cope with the fact that a person could be driven to that, and nevertheless survive it. It could also have started as a warning for the children of the tribe, making sure that the kids wouldn't go out alone in the forest, or they'd be infected by the Wendigo. This also explains why the Wendigo is human in origin, according to most tales, only becoming a horrifying creature after being forced to resort to cannibalism as a last desperate measure. The following tales of the Wendigo are the most popular editions of the Wendigo story, but far from the only. In the first iteration of the Wendigo, it is said that the Wendigo lurks around, haunting starved and lost travelers, waiting for them to be desperate enough to turn on their fellow man and eat them. Once the act is committed, the Wendigo's spirit will possess the perpetrator's body, slowly infiltrating their mind and transforming them into the haunting creature we know. The second version of the story is a bit different as to the way the Wendigo gets you. In this version, the Wendigo is an immortal creature that wanders around the woods, waiting to find their starving victim. This part of the story also has two parts. Opinions divided on which one is supposedly true. Number one is that the Wendigo waits until the victim commits cannibalism, turning it into a creature just like them by infecting the victim through the meat. Number two is that the Wendigo forces the victim to consume the meat of their fellow man, driving the victim to insanity and brutal acts of violence before taking them over. The last variant of the story that I want to talk about is the one where the Wendigo didn't start out as a creature, but as a sickness that infects you if you eat the flesh of your own kind. This is rooted in the actual phenomenon of mad cow disease, which occurs when a human eats the meat of a cow that has cannibalized another cow. Of course, it isn't entirely similar, seeing as to get mad cow disease, you need to consume an animal that has consumed its own kind, instead of committing the act of cannibalism yourself. I personally like this story the most. I think it is the most realistic if you look at it from a scientific perspective. From just a pure/fun and mythical side though, I just think the first story is the most entertaining and, in my opinion, horrifying. The idea of being lost in the woods, starving and freezing, while a tall and ghostly creature with an animal skull for its head stalks you around, just waiting for you to give in and cannibalize your friend, or even a part of yourself. Some lesser-known understandings of the Wendigo's myth are that humans can turn or get possessed by the Wendigo if they have incredible greed, punished with being turned into a monster because of their hunger for power. Or another one is that a human can transform into a Wendigo if they are around the creatures too much, able to become just like them just from living in the forest they reside in. Wendigos in pop culture. Since the birth of the modern internet, the Wendigo has become popular, appearing in multiple movies and countless of short stories and platforms like creepypastas. The Wendigo is portrayed as a mutated creature, infecting their victims with a bite similar to a werewolf, and equipped with superhuman strength, speed, agility, and other senses. They're believed to be able to regenerate, and only able to be killed by decapitation, warded off by garlic, silver, and other typical supernatural things. They also say the Wendigo is able to mimic voices to lure victims in, which I think wouldn't make sense if paired with their other powers and origins. Mimicking people isn't typically portrayed as something the Wendigo does in Algonquian stories, and seems more in character for creatures like skinwalkers and the Fae, who will lure people in by pretending to be in need of help or another human. People seem to think they have another wide arrangement of powers, all of them practically resulting in the Wendigo being a carbon copy of the Predators from the Predator franchise power-wise. I don't see why the Wendigo would need things like heat vision, multilingualism, X-ray vision, and things like electromagnetic force disruption. The story of the Wendigo works best when it is brought back to its basics, a tale about the curse of cannibalism and greed turning a human into a skeleton-like creature that haunts the woods that humanity died in. It doesn't need to be a badass killer that can see through walls and disrupt technology, when the core aspect of its story is that if you're lost in the woods with a friend, getting hungry and desperate, you better be careful, or the Wendigo might get you.